Well, good afternoon, everybody. Uh, I wanted to take a moment to talk about synergies, and that has a lot to do with skills and tools and the like for bushcraft and survival. So stick with me, guys. We'll get right into that. So, what do I mean by that? Skill synergies, techniques, tools. I'm talking about all the things that kind of go together and enhance a particular set of skills. And sometimes it can be with a tool, different methodologies, or combining different techniques. Now, one thing is definitely true. There's more than one way to skin a cat, like they say. And when we get out into the field during bushcraft and survival, and I want to focus more on the survival aspect because usually I've said a lot of times, a lot of bushcraft skills go hand in hand. So now we kind of got the concept of the conversation. And everybody, please feel free. This is definitely a good one for the comment section. You can share your own experiences or examples or something that you've even observed where someone who was doing something that may not even been necessarily related to the situation they were in or the task that they were trying to take care of managed to successfully take care of that based on a whole other skill set and experiences that they've had in their life. So, for example, if you're a really skilled carpenter, or at the very least know the basics very well, you could actually help make yourself shelters in a bad situation because you can apply your woodworking knowledge in with shelter building. Now, obviously, you'll have to kind of modify it on the fly, especially if you're not used to working with lumber that is not cut in dimensional lumber shapes. But it's just the experience, it's like, well, I got a good idea what wood does, how strong it is, how resistant it is, how flexible it is, all those things can definitely apply to shelter building. I'll give you another example too, like someone who's done a lot of mason work. They're very familiar with, concrete blocks, brick, stone. That could help them make a good fire ring or maybe even potentially make a shelter walls using stone and clay or something to help use like a mortar. Now, since you may already have these backgrounds, if you're in the trades, you have a good opportunity to do some basic bushcraft survival education. And then once you have those basics kind of covered, then you can like learn how to apply some skill that you already have that may be on a higher level, figure out a way how to utilize it, blend it right in with your own personalized bushcraft survival skills. Now, let's say you're into farming. I'm going to expand that. I know there's that's a very big blanket statement. There's farming crops, there's animal husbandry. It's a really big arena. So I don't really have the time to go over that, piece by piece. But a lot of the people, myself and the older men that I grew up with that had farms, it was kind of a combination of all that. So from my personal experience, it's like, okay, I'm used to all the different animals, taking care of them, you know. Then of course there's, actual literally, farming, planting gardens, yada, yada, yada. Uh, Now, if you have those skills, that can even help you in the woods. Say, like, you're very familiar with animals, especially, if you raise them and, you've gotten new animals in, you've had to kind of learn how they act, they're skittish, kind of their behavior patterns. And a lot of cases, not always. And you can kind of relate that to, say, deer, rabbit, squirrel. They're animals. And when you get to understand that, especially, if you got into butchering, how to do it safely, hygienically, uh, most of them guys, especially back then, knew how to put a razor sharp edge on a knife and how to maintain their butchering tools. That could very well translate in very well with bushcraft and survival. Being able to properly maintain and keep edges on your cutting tools, highly important in neutering. So I'll ask a question for you who are viewing. What are your skills? And like I said, I understand a lot of people watching this may not have trade skills, and I'm not trying to say that you're lesser for it. So, please don't think I'm doing that. But if you don't have any of these general trade schools, then I would suggest at the very least, go straight for the survival kind of stuff. Try to learn it, get some books, do a little bit of practicing, kind of mix in some bushcraft when you get a little more confident with what you're doing and your confidence is up and you can at least do the stuff fairly safe. Then expand into it because it's never too late to learn. Just, it may take a little bit more effort for you, but hey, it's fine. It's worth it. You're going to fail, especially when you're trying new things. You're going to get really frustrated. But the point of the fact is keep trying and don't be afraid that maybe somebody who knows somebody who's more of an outdoors person, at the very least goes camping a lot, hiking. Talk to those people, even if it's just over the phone or on social media, because they can be a source of knowledge. And that's where we're going to kind of get into the whole crux of this is the knowledge that you carry with you forward that will always help you in all these situations. So now when you've done a lot of manual labor and you're into the trades, I'm talking carpenters, masons, farmers, all these people in these jobs and careers that have you out of doors and you've experienced a lot, especially like when I was doing a lot of farm work and stuff and like just the weather when I was a lot younger, getting to understand the weather patterns. And you get to the point where, no joke, I could be out there in the field helping them take care of some calves and I could just, it's going to rain. And lo and behold, maybe an hour or two later, there come the rain. And that was a time there weren't no cell phones even existed then, no internet. So, I didn't have the ability to peek ahead, but that was just getting familiarized with the environment and you could feel things, you could smell things. And we're in a world now where everybody is fairly desensitized to being out in nature and to have that sense about you. And those things kind of develop now, especially if you start young and you're doing it a lot. It's that get the feel for it. That in of itself almost seems a bit of an enigma, but it's really not, because it's like, let's say you do code. You can write code. To me, you'd be speaking Martian gibberish. I'd be as lost could be. Now you take me out in the woods, give me a knife, and say you gotta survive out here for some random amount of days. Good luck, buddy. I'll see you at the end of whatever days they randomly select me to stay out there. That's just, totally different skills levels and different understandings of how things work. And that is my point. Like I said, when I'm not trying to say that, I'm better than you, you're better than me. In that person's world with computers and coding and stuff, I'm helpless. And if they come into my world without any prior experience, it's the same thing for them. Now here's another point of fact is, now these two people meet with these completely opposing realities that they live in. Each person can help the other learn. So take that with you too. So don't be afraid to ask for help. But to get back to it, I'm not used to talking so much. I'm getting dry in the mouth, guys. Do this as kind of like an experiment for yourself. Even if you want to, wherever you keep your tools, where you got a workshop, tool shed, or maybe you just got some toolkits laying around in the house somewhere, in the vehicle, go from place to place, look at what you got. And that includes even your hunting gear, your camping gear, bushcraft survival gear, if you got it. If you don't, look at your tools, all the stuff you got in your house, and do the mental exercise like, okay, if something bad happened and I had to grab whatever I have available, I mean, I can't say what you'll have because it could really vary, but put yourself in a scenario and keep in mind, what you have to cover to keep yourself alive and safe. You need cover, some kind of shelter, ability to make fire, clean drinking water that won't kill you or make you sick, and of course, oxygen is, if we don't have oxygen, that's a big problem anyway. But your basic priorities: shelter, fire, food, water, and see what you can come up with what you have currently to take care of those situations. And if you want to take it a step further, take those items and try to do it. Now, some guys may have like a lot of painters cloths, that plastic sheeting. Great, you can make a lot of shelters with that. You can use that to make a super shelter. Tarps. A lot of people even have like motorcycle side by sides, ATVs of all types of varieties. A lot of them guys usually always have several tarps. Uh, and if you're into camping and hiking and all that, or you probably got a lot of good gear just there alone. So, do that exercise, see where you're at, and then decide what you want to improve. And you don't have to do this stuff immediately. You can really slowly work your way up to it. And as always, I highly recommend starting off with the knowledge base. Learn what you need to do to survive, and then start blending in your own style and seeing if it works. And if it does work, and especially if it works well, then that's something that is uniquely you and yours. But I think we can pretty much end this here. It's just, I just done a video. You'll probably see it before this one. I did char cloth. I'm literally just sitting here right after I finished that video. And I was kind of hitting on that with making these steps of charcoal or charred material from, taking out that little Altoids tin. I've already pre-made it because that means, I'm prepped. Now I got the tin, the charred material. I got the dry stick made out of pine that I always keep in my back pocket. So in a rough condition, I got a pretty good chance of making myself a fire. But once that fire is made, let's say I don't want to sacrifice my bandana or chunks of my clothing to try to make more charred material. Well, I'll just hunt up, a dead, rotten piece of wood, that's fairly dry and, it's fairly easy to crumble in my hand. Well, now that I've got access to that, I'm going to make sure that little char tin is stuffed full of that new material, put in the coals, and I make more charred material. And that punky wood is a little bit step up, my personal opinion, from the char cloth. The char cloth is fantastic, actually catches on easier, but it doesn't last as long. Once you get the amber blowed into it, that char cloth will go pretty quick. The pumpy wood will last quite a bit longer. But, I say this is step up to better and better. Now, with that in mind, this was like, okay, there's all these different skills and synergies in just this pyramid effect that you can do all these different things that, whereas by itself, it may not be that great of a thing, but now you add all these other things in with it, other skills and knowledge that allow you to do a lot more with less. That's kind of what I was wanting to promote in this video. But this video is dragging on, so I'm going to end it here, guys. So please like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you in another one.